straight to Rocastle. The chance is on. The goal is there for David Rocastle.
I used to put him in goal when we're now both playing for Arsenal.
Boy, get over here, get in goal. That was the early days, remembering Ian.
We've got a player here. He could be a Brazilian, and he comes from Lewisham.
It would take you many, many years in academy work now to create what had seemingly been created from nowhere.
They each went in a different way. Eventually their path joined up again, playing at the highest level.
No offside, Ian Wright. Pallister played him on. Rocastle's in the centre. Rocastle, 1-1.
God, it ain't changed much. So where that co-op is now, where these lot are crossing, you'll see the co-op in a sec. That's where the Golden Lion was, and it was 2 pubs in one. And we'd be on a fence just over here, and you'd see the wives coming from down there with plates in their hands, like where they'd go into the pub where the husband's obviously been in there all day. And she says, "You're in here all day, you might as well bloody eat your dinner in here." When I was a kid, being in a house where it was very intense, from stepdad and mum, 2 older brothers and a spoilt younger sister, it was tense and it was intense. You know what I mean? It always kicked off in there and everything. So when I came out and I was able to play football and, you know what I mean, people liked the fact that I was a good footballer and people wanted me on their team and that it was nice to be good at something. I remember when I used to go and stay with my girl cousins, Pamela, Paulette and Margaret in Hatfield, and I used to play in their football games, what they used to have up there, and they used to call me Little Pele. You know what I mean? I used to love that. So it was nice that when I played football, people loved me. You have to finish it, man. You can always finish the ball off. Can we go in? Is this the kids here now?
Sorry to interrupt you. I was walking along the corridor, and all of a sudden I just bumped into someone.
Mr. Curzon used to always say, you could do a lot better than you're doing. You're not trying half as hard as you should be. And I used to always say, if you put as much into your schoolwork than you do in your football, you'd be okay. I can't emphasize enough how important it is to listen to the teacher, to give yourselves the best possible opportunity to do what you want in life. I put everything into just playing football and wanting to score and wanting to be the best and make sure my touch was right. And academically, I didn't do anything. I can't remember reading anything. I hated playing football. When we used to play football, there weren't no nets. I didn't want to play because it wasn't the same when you're scoring a goal without nets. So it was a big goal without a net, so we used to use the back as a net. It was brilliant. I don't know how many years. I don't know how many years I haven't been here. It seems so much smaller. I remember when we used to play football with Rocks and that, him and Kevin Arnold, they'd come through the gate down there, and the pitches were faced the other way. They were coming this way more, whereas they're going that diagonal at the minute. And he would try and sneak off. He'd try and sneak off or something, because there used to be the player you could play in there and all that sort of stuff. And that's where I used to pull him and say, come on, in goal.
We used to walk up the park with a few friends of mine. We used to come to play on the swings because we were younger players, younger lads, and we didn't want to join in with the big boys. And they used to see us, and they never used to have a goalkeeper. because they all wanted to be Pelés and Maradona on the pitch. So we used to be walking past and it used to be one of them, "Oi, get over here, get in goal." And obviously we were only little kids at the time. And compared to them big men, and then when they stick the ball at us, we never really fancied it. But like I said, that was the early days of remembering Ian bullying us.
Well, people saw me as the older player on the estate because they knew I could play football. And he was the young guy on the estate. And I didn't realise how good he was until, like I say, when he used to be in goal, then all of a sudden, he'd get the ball at 10 and just go through everyone. You know what I mean? That's when you realise that he was good. But I honestly, even then, watching what he was able to do in that, I didn't realise it was going to go like it did for him.
Growing up on the Honour estate, everyone seems to have this romantic idea of their childhood that everyone looked out for each other, but that's what the Honour estate was like. I mean, obviously, David was older than me, and David and his peers used to make sure that all us younger ones were looked after. They set a good example for us. The Rocastle household, it was a happy place. My dad died when I was 1, so for as long as I can remember, David was always like the lead of the family alongside my mum as well, for me and my brothers and sisters. David was my role model for absolutely everything, not just football, teaching me how to, silly things like teaching me how to shave, obviously clothes to wear, etc., etc. So he was my inspiration.
Here's a picture of us in Turnham School. Paul Skelly, David himself, Garnett, Curtin, Kevin Arnold, a real close friend of David's, Ginger, and this must have been 13, 14 then. David and myself went to Turnham Primary School. We all grew up in Turnham Estate. I lived in Skipton House, David lived in Dell House, and Ian was older, and I think he was in Kentwell Close, but all of us kind of lived in the same area. When we were 13, we had district trials. And myself got in, a guy called Gary Hill, Ginger, and David, and we played district. And I remember we was in a school tournament and we played all day and we got to the final and it was down to penalties and everyone was scared to take a penalty and David took the penalty and missed. And I remember all of us going back to the changing room, crying, pretending mud was in our eyes, saying that, you know, and that was a great memory of David coming up. But when we was playing football from primary school, especially in Roger Manwood, we always knew David was going to make it.
David and Ian had the same kind of drive, but different personalities. So that was the difference between them. I think David was quieter than Ian, but Ian was, you could see the energy in Ian when Ian was doing anything. Rocastle was a bit more low-key. And I'm not saying Ian was like pushing it in your face. Ian just had energy inside of him to keep going and looking around. Let me go and do this, let me go and do that. I want to be a footballer, you know what I'm saying?
David played for a team called Vista. Vista was kind of good. They had about 3 or 4 teams. I remember their kit looked like Norwich, the checks, yellow and green checks, and he played for Vista. After that, I knew he went down to Millwall, I believe, who for some reason said he wasn't good enough, which was Millwall's loss and Arsenal and England's benefit.
I was working as a sports instructor at Tollington Park School, and we played David's school on the AstroTurf at Market Road. And, well, they beat us quite comfortably. We had quite a decent team, we thought, but David tore us apart. He scored so many goals in that game that caught the eye. In fact, it would have caught anyone's eye, to be honest. You had to get in touch with the school to speak to the player, and they said no, fine, you can have a word with him, but he wanted to be loyal to his school, and he said, well, I'll have a word with my sports teacher, and that was the start of it all, really.
We used to train on a Monday and a Thursday when we were 13, 14 as kids at Arsenal. I come in from Dagenham on the district line, and he came up from South London. And in those days, Arsenal were very selective with the kids. I remember going into the West Ham facility, training ground, and there was about 30, 40 kids running around like idiots. It was kind of a bit farcical, but when we went down to the Arsenal, it was pretty stylish.
7:30 a.m. A First Division footballer sets off for work. He's heading for Highbury and then on further north to the Arsenal training ground at London Colney.
Well, I remember hearing about it, I think he's got to go all the way to North London.
Sometimes you're on the platform waiting for 45 minutes, like you're having a bit of a panic up because you think you're going to be late, you know.
You don't drive?
No, I've been taking lessons and hopefully I'll have my test come through soon, and that'll be a bit easier for me, I hope, if I pass it.
It's a bit of a rebel, a bit of a rogue, really. I was a good East London boy. He was a South London tough cookie.
Rocky signed for the club in about 1982, and I joined the board in 1983, so our paths really overlapped almost immediately. And I would see the youth team play virtually every time I could. And after about 3 or 4 weeks, I remember coming home and I said to my wife and the kids, you know, we've got a player here. He could be a Brazilian. He's got the skill, he's got the technique, he's got the body. He could be a Brazilian player, and he comes from Lewisham. And all the time I was lauding his praises. I kept on saying, you know, this boy, he's going to go the whole way. He's sensational. And so much so that when it was my birthday, my wife bought me a wallet for a present. And inside the wallet, where you'd normally think where the photo place is, should have been a picture of her or the family. It was a picture of Rocky. So I thought that was sweet.
My role was to work with the young apprentices at Arsenal to get them to realise that there might be a life outside football if they didn't make it. They were quite innocent in a way, the group, in their first year as an apprentice, but they didn't initially see the reason why they were doing this. Sometimes there would be one or two who would, you know, putting it mildly, sort of throw a strop. And David was always the one who would wait behind and say, oh, I'm sorry about them, you know, and such. He was, you know, try and sort of make everyone feel comfortable. And I think occasionally he would have a word with some of the others as well. So although he didn't dominate in the classroom at all, he had a quiet confidence. I happened to live in Dulwich at the time, and a couple of times he would call in on his way back home. And he actually knocked my door to tell me the day he was finally signed as a full-time player. I remember coming to the door and he was saying he was just so excited and happy. And he also said to me then that day how much he was doing it for his mother. He always had this feeling about his mum. He always said, you know, I'm doing this, I want to be able to get on in my life and make some money so I can help my mum.
The barber shop, yeah, look. Too long, Paul.
How are you, Ian? How are you, my man?
Really good. Yeah.
Yeah, you remember the thing
Look at us, look.
Yeah, man. Yeah, look at this up there.
Look.
That's it. You hear him? At Arsenal. Yes.
I remember walking down here. I was coming from Malpas Road, walking down here. I met two guys, can't name them. That's the shop there. I met two guys, and before I knew it, they turned in there. They grabbed a load of stuff, and before I knew it, I was running up here. It was a jeweller's. They went in, they nicked about 4 or 5 boxes of rings and ran. And that was like about the company you keep kind of vibe. When people say about the company you keep, I wasn't even with them. I was literally coming back from like an ex-girlfriend's house who lived on Malpas Road, and I was just walking past, and I bumped into them, like I'd say 15 yards, maybe 15, 20 yards before they got to the shop, what they were obviously, they turned in, and then I was saying, what are they doing? So but when they came out, I just started running as well. And that was one of the things that made me think, Jesus Christ, man. Look how easy I could have been wrapped up in foolishness that had nothing to do with me. At that time, being a professional footballer was like a million miles away from my thinking, because with all the rejection through my teenage and adolescent years, I just thought that it was something that passed me by. I didn't get an answer from Chelsea. I should have kept the letters. I got answers from West Ham, got answers from Arsenal, I think. Palace. It just so happened that whether it's luck or whether at the time I wasn't good enough or I was too small, or I don't know what it was, but I just never got scouted.
I used to be going to get the bus to go do my training with Arsenal, and I used to see him on the bridge, and I used to have a moan at him, really, even though I was younger than him. I used to moan at him because he just saw such great potential, and you just wanted to see, you know, what it'd be like playing in the First Division.
You know what I mean? Dave, he would dig me out. He would say, you know what I mean, I've seen you, you should be doing it. You can play professional football. But like mine now, I was exhausted trying to do it. This is it, this is the bridge. So that's the bridge that leads to Crofton Park. I'll be coming here because I've got to go down there to get to our block of flats, and Rocky would be coming from down there to come here. And we'd probably meet about here. I bumped into Rocky when I came from Brighton. I remember telling him that that's just basically it for me, because like I can't do any more than I've done at Brighton. So I would have been just coming up, just gone 19, so 20. So he's just come 16-ish. And this time Rocky was just like really flying. His body got different. He looked really a lot bigger and everything. And I remember him just saying, yeah, but that's just what happens. It just happens. They've made a mistake. He said they've made a mistake. They've made a mistake.
We'd been training at London Colney. I had a meeting with them afterwards, and I was laying down the law about things that they can do and things that they can't do, and the things that we expect of them at the club. Remember who you are, what you are, and whom you represent. And I basically said to them that until they play in the first team, they're costing the club money. I said, which one of you lot is going to come through and make it into the first team? And out of all the ones there, he was the one who put his hand up and he said, I will do it. I'll make the first team here. And I just said to him, I said, David, I sincerely hope you do. And he did.
We had 3 managers in the first 3 months of coming through, you know, that age group. We had Don Howe, Terry Neal, you know, and then finally George came in. So it was turbulent times, and but underneath all that there was 6 all went on to be internationals. Call it the arrogance of youth. I think we just blasted our way through, to be honest with you. By the time we were 19, 20, we were all in there, and you couldn't hold us back. We pushed all these prima donnas to one side and burst through.
There was definitely a feeling, and maybe it comes from every young group that's really special, that there's always an older group trying to hold them back, because it's a competitive world. They're fighting for their lives, aren't they? You can't allow the next group to come and take it from you. You know, I would have probably been no different.
Like they do up north, especially at home.
There was groups at the club which I didn't like. I told them all my first day at training, when we all sat down on the grass. I always remember that. Me and the staff were facing all the players, and we told them my managerial philosophy, you know, and how the work ethic was paramount. Doesn't matter how big a star you are, how big a name you are.
With George Graham, there's a bit better team spirit. Players, I think they could pass on there. They could talk to him better than they did previously. And we're all together now. Like, we group together. There's no, like, one out of the team who, you know, no one gets on with. Everyone gets on with each other.
I'd heard of Dave because obviously he's a South London boy and I'm a South London boy, and then there's Michael as well, also 3 of us were South London. They kind of looked towards me as the older player, as sort of a father figure. In fact, the nickname for me was Pops.
We had no airs about us. We knew who we were. We were all special, but we just got on with it. And with David, if he was here right now, it'd just be David. It was nothing, not like a star. He'd just be himself.
He was a fighter. He wouldn't have backed down. He wasn't one to run away. If you were in the trenches, he'd be at the front. It wasn't, some teams, us English, we just don't run, do we? When we should just walk away at times, but he wasn't for running.
There's a great satisfaction that you're doing this with people that you were brought up with. And you're brothers in arms, from such a young age. And I think the club must have been immensely proud what they were putting together there.
When he crossed that line, he was a different animal. It was then, you were trying to take my livelihood away from me, and I'm going to go and I'm going to win the game. But once he stepped back over it, he was the lovely guy again.
The crowd would have been on his side right from the off because of the things that he would try to do. His name was always the first one that they called out. Whenever we ran out for away games, it would always be Rocky Rocastle first, always.
Rocastle now on the far side for Arsenal.
1-1. The original recommendation, you'd come in and said, I always remember you saying, I've got this kid who's training with us at the moment. Yeah. He said he looks a little bit special. And I hate to say it, but I think I said to you, how old is he? And you said 22, and I'm thinking, he's not been connected with a club, and he hadn't been connected with a club. And I'd heard that so many times before. Oh, I know somebody, he's 23, he's brilliant, but, he's never been signed. And there's always a flaw.
I was on trial with Dulwich Hamlet. Never played for Dulwich Hamlet. I'm hearing people saying, "Why don't you do more with Dulwich Hamlet? Why don't you do?" I didn't play for those teams. I left Sunday morning football and went to the second division.
We only had him for 4 weeks, and we put him on just a form. It wasn't a contract, and then
just a league form, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, and then the Palace asked if they could have him. That was fair enough for me. I love to see him go on,
Ian went and did a pre-season with Dulwich Hamlet, who was managed at the time by Bill Smith, who's a great colleague and friend of the club here. So I take myself along to King's College Sports Ground in Western Road, Mitcham here. And lo and behold, the very evening I turn up, there's a training game going on, possibles versus probables. And I think Ian scored 4 or 5 goals prior to half-time, at which stage Bill took him off, and I then sort of introduced myself.
His probables would have been his regular players, and his possibles would have been all the trialists that he invited in.
Yeah.
So, and Ian must have been one of those. From Peter Prentice, all I got was kids definitely got something a little bit special. When he first started training with us, it was one of those, an element of disbelief. Players who come in on trial are usually determined to do well, and they're sort of stiff and want to be seen to be doing the right things. And yet he was lovely and relaxed in everything we did, more or less from day one. You just thought, what's wrong? All the qualities you look for in a striker. It would take you many, many years in academy work now to create what had seemingly been created from nowhere.
So the trial's happening and I'm doing pretty well. We played a game against Kingstonian and it was a Friday and we beat them 1-0 and I scored. Steve Coppell was actually watching that game and he just said to me, I want you to report tomorrow to the ground. We're playing Coventry behind closed doors. My heart kind of skipped a beat I'm with the first team behind closed doors. Everybody's going crazy. Get the 1-2-2 from Crofton Park. Drops me up at the top of Crystal Palace Parade there. And then I come down to here, the athletics track. I must have been there for easily an hour, 15, just waiting around. I remember seeing a lady and I said, excuse me, do you know what time they open the doors for the football game? She said, this isn't the football stadium, this is the athletics stadium. And she said the football stadium's in Sellers, this another 2 miles that way. And I literally froze. Literally, like I could feel it now, and I'm laughing now because of how stupid I am. Sprinted from here all the way down Hamlet Road, went to it, got to the Woodvale, took the right, and then Palace was straight down, saw the floodlights. And by now, I'm still in plenty of time, you know, by the time I got there, but like, I'm sweating profusely, man. I was just like soaking with sweat.
He trained with us for 3 days. And then I spoke to my chairman, Ron Nodes, and I said to him, you know, this kid's exceptional. I said, this sounds stupid. I said, but he's got enough ability to play for England. I obviously didn't convince Ron too much because I think we only offered him a 3-month contract.
So different. A career in football had never entered my mind until Steve Coppell said he's signing me on a 3-month deal. I was 3 months off my 22nd birthday. So it wasn't something that was happening to players of that age. He's pulled me in the office and he said, we're going to sign you on a 3-month contract, £100 a week. I was stunned. And I phoned my mum and I remember just saying, Mum, I'm a professional footballer. I'm signed for Crystal Palace for 3 months. And she started crying, and I started crying because I couldn't believe it. I remember in my head I was thinking, but I'm actually earning £105 a week from tunnel refineries. But I didn't really say anything to him. I just said, yep, that's fine. I didn't think that I was in a position where I should be negotiating another £5 from Steve Coppell. Rocky always said that you're better. You're better than the people I play against when he was playing in reserves, when I met him on the bridge. And then once I got to Palace and I played with these reserves, played against the reserves for different clubs, and you know what I mean, he was right.
Yeah, lads give me a bit of stick because in training I've been having a bit of a nightmare recently, and I've been having bad headers, bad shots and everything, so they've been getting on to me a bit, and if I score a goal I think it'll shut them up.
Comes through to Rocastle. He thought about hitting it first time. It's past the post for a goal kick.
The first leg we played at home and we lost 1-0. And the second leg we won at Tottenham 2-1. It went to the replay, and very late on the ball was bobbing around in the penalty area and Rocky got there first and with his left foot managed to score.
Deep one. Quinn hoping to get on the end of it. It comes for Allinson. Driven first time. It might go anywhere. Rocastle! Arsenal are through to Wembley.
And we won 2-1 and it was a great excitement, and the whole of White Hart Lane with the Arsenal fans went crazy because it was one of their own boys who'd scored it.
Amazing record of Arsenal. They are through to Wembley. One of the great Littlewoods Cup comebacks. The winner from David Rocastle take Arsenal through to Wembley.
After he scored, we went down Camden Pally. That was good fun. Never was a dancer, you know. I used to throw a few shapes, you know, get on the floor and stuff. He would just kind of have his little drink, you know, rum and black or something ridiculous.
And number 7 there. David Rocastle, the man whose goal in the dying seconds of the third match in the semi-final contest against Tottenham brought Arsenal to Wembley. Nicholas and Rocastle in the area. Nicholas! Yes!
You couldn't speak highly enough of Rocky, and I'm not being funny, he used to really piss me off a little bit, to be honest, because he had no faults. He was like a brilliant footballer, brilliantly talented, unbelievably good looking, a really bloody nice bloke. And you started to think, there must be something wrong with you. You must upset someone. Do you know what I mean? Someone must dislike you. And nobody disliked him. Even though he was a young player, I think he thrived on the responsibility. And you can see his confidence just grow and grow and grow.
He played the game like he was playing as a 9-year-old would play, or a 10-year-old. He just loved being out there playing and just show what he could do. And he was a forward-thinking player. So any time he received the ball, in my mind, he always wanted to attack.
Rocastle outside him, plenty up for Arsenal now, David Rocastle. Still Rocastle! Fantastic goal!
All my friends and me were in awe of him, of what he's achieved and he's playing for Arsenal. And if we was ever in Lewisham Town Centre and we saw like people that played football professionally, like some few Charlton players, a few Millwall players, he'd point them out to me and be like, "Here, Steve, there's so-and-so over there and there's so-and-so over there." And all the time I'm thinking, but David Rocastle plays for Arsenal in England. But that is just what he was like. He had no ego about who he was at all.
At the time, in that season, he was the best that there was around. As simple as that.
The goal is there for David Rocastle.
Everyone was giving me a lot of stick with the donkey stuff and everything, and no one was having a go at Rocky. And Rocky kept on destroying the teams.
It struck, a fabulous goal by Rocastle.
I said, keep going. Yeah, come on, throw another carrot at me. And then Rocky goes and gets 2 goals or 3 goals or makes a goal. I can't believe this is great.
Well, I suppose if you believe in happy endings, then the script has already been written and the Championship trophy will stay here at Anfield for another year. Well, that's the obvious conclusion, that Liverpool will win the double, just as everyone said they would 12 months ago. The onus very much on Arsenal, but a 1-0 Wimbledon-style win is no good to them. They've got to win, and they've got to win well.
For me, it is an incredible up and down moment, because obviously after the low of drawing with Wimbledon, when we could have won the league at home in midweek, the disappointment of that, and I remember leaving the stadium on a downer a day or two later, after Liverpool basically smashed West Ham, thinking it's over. George Graham comes back, "It's all right, guys, all we need is 2 goals."
Well, the atmosphere here at Anfield tonight goes without saying. The Championship will be decided once and for all tonight.
Well, it was a little PR thing, wasn't it? You try to kid them, although come up to Liverpool, who were almost unbeatable at the time, and to think not only are you going to beat them, but you've got to beat them 2-0. How many teams go at that period of time and beat Liverpool 2-0?
From disappointment came to, yeah, we can do this. We're not scared of Liverpool. Liverpool were obviously the Man United of today. We're like, we're not scared of them. We've given good battles, we've beaten them. So we sort of went there with no fear.
Everybody's expecting you to go full out and attack and get the goals that you needed and get the result. But that wasn't the case. I told them, keep it nice and calm, don't concede. And then in the second half, then we can up the tempo and then be a bit more adventurous.
It was perfectly normal just to go to Anfield and win that day. I think we were the only people in the world that thought we would win. And naivety of youth again. I think there's a naivety. You've not done it before, and we've been used to winning. We've been used to getting our own way, I suppose.
It was quite a strange atmosphere because they never came forward the way they always done at Anfield. Liverpool at Anfield, first 20 minutes were always win 3/4 of their games. So they were very quiet coming forward, and we were not very you know, attacking-wise. So it was a very, very strange 45 minutes, but we got what we wanted. It was 0-0 at half-time, and I says, we've got to grow into the game, lads. And I says, I think you can get the first one. I says, then they will have to open up a little bit.
The team talk was eerie. He got it spot on. He said, keep it clean half-time, and then we're still in the game. But the important thing is that we're 0-0 at half-time.
In the next 45 minutes, the championship of the First Division of the Barclays Football League will be decided.
He said, we'll nick a goal second half, I fancy strongly. He said, and trust me, he said, you watch the momentum change, he said, and they will be under pressure. The tension will get to him.
On away. Rocastle. Foul that time given against Whelan for his feet too high as he challenged David Rocastle.
That clip where he picks himself up, grits his teeth and shakes his fist to tell the rest of the team and the supporters that it's possible, I think really typified David and how he played the game. There was games where, you know, the drive of him and the team, you know, got us through.
Adams has made a darting little run in there, and Smith! And Arsenal have scored!
You live for those days. You know, as a football director, you know, you cherish, you want to win something. You know, that's what it's about. And then to do it in that style.
Adams is after his man, but Barnes will not be denied. Yes, he will, by Richardson, a moment ago, down and injured.
All the great sportsmen say that at their pivotal moments, the action happens in slow motion, whether it's a great tennis player, great golfer, whatever. And as Tomo was running through, I'm looking at him, and everything seemed to slow down.
Surely what will be their last attack?
It's definitely fate, because I always remember the ball come to me, and then all I'm thinking, Steve Nicol. If I go the other side of him, that's it, I'm through.
Finding Smith for Thomas, charging through the midfield. Thomas, it's up for grabs now! Thomas! Right at the end! An unbelievable climax to the league season.
It was incredible. It's what dreams are made of, and it was for us.
I just catapulted myself up in the air and went, yes! And as I came down, Peter Hillwood, the chairman, and you could smoke in those days, he took out his cigar and he turned around to me and he said, never in any doubt.
That smile when we won the championship, that smile, it was just like a beam when his just arms are so wide that we've finally done it. You know, we won a league together, and see him come towards us smiling, massive smile. That will always stand out because he's looking at me and taking it all in, that all of us together we've come through and we've done it together.
We just give it a go, we just give it our best shot, and it worked out for us on the night.
I think we ended up in a nightclub in Southgate. I think I lost my blazer. I had Arsenal blazers, and I think it... So weirdly, I think I got it back about 10 years later. A guy gave it back to me.
That was like the Rolling Stones and the Beatles getting off. Everybody's mobbing all the players. No one was really bothered about me, to be fair, so I got off and everyone went, all right, you know, and then Rocky got off and it was like a pop star getting off, going into the nightclub. And then I think a load of lads gave their blazers away, which they got fined for, so that was funny, like ties and everything. We didn't get there till about 2:30, 3, we was probably in there till about 5:30, 6 in the morning, and it was absolutely mobbed.
That team, to me, seemed to be like just a team of mates that happened to be playing for one of the biggest football clubs in the world. They all come through the youth team together. I mean, this famous quote from Hansen, "You never win anything with kids." Well, I think it's a couple of years too late for that, because Arsenal had already proved it.
Wright has had to learn quickly. 5 years ago, he was an unemployed Sunday League footballer. He didn't come into the game until he was 22. He's in a hurry to show the doubters in his past how wrong they were.
Well,
I don't think you never beat the system. I think you can ride with the system and do as best in the system as you can. I'd like to think that it didn't go very well for me when I was younger. I think it might have had a lot to do with that I was quite small, quite lightweight. But, you know, I do think that when you come through as an apprentice, there is a stage where you get a bit disillusioned with it, you know, and I think because I didn't come in at that stage, I think I don't think on the game like that. I can't wait to play. I want to play on a Saturday. I can't wait to train. When you've done any kind of little thing what they liked, even if a ball came and you controlled it well and passed it, they clapped. It's just unbelievable. Everything was like, oh, they loved it. You have a shot, they go, oh, clapped. I didn't feel nervous because I was so confident in that when I was going to be out there with the skills and everybody, they would love the skills, the fans. So the more fans there were, the more I felt comfortable doing it because I just wanted to show off. We were so pumped up. The crowd was exactly like we thought it would be. It was brilliant in here. We get a break, ball comes out, Alan Partridge whips it in with the outside of his right foot.
Palace have scored!
I never even celebrated. Just ran back. We were all over him. Eddie went through and he got pushed down, and that was the penalty. David Madden, he went in, took it. I never even looked, I just heard the crowd. The crowd ended up on the line. They were literally on the line. You couldn't take a throw on, the crowd were on the line. Remember, Eddie broke from here, went down to the line, crossed it, and I was in between two of them. And that was it. The crowd came on. Unbelievable. It was easily, for me, it was the greatest day of my life up to that point. We'd done it. We're in the first division. First home game was Man United. It was Robson, Ince, Hughes up front, Webb. I think Brian Robson scored. And I scored.
Dyer, who glances it on, Ian Wright!
We drew 1-1 with Man United, our first home game in the first division. It was unbelievable stuff, you know what I mean? It was just like fairy tale stuff. To play in a cup final was my dream. If I could only have played in a cup final, won a cup final for my whole career, I would have been happy with that.
Semi-final day has a flavour all of its own. Crystal Palace in the red and blue stripes will kick off, and they are, to say the least, the underdogs.
The FA Cup final means the world to me. It meant the world to me then, and it means the world to me now. So to break your leg twice in the season, I'm thinking it's not going to happen for me. When we get Liverpool in the semi-finals, after being beaten by them 9-0 earlier on in the season, I'm not even there to help.
It's gone in! Pardew! 4-3 Palace!
They beat Liverpool. All of a sudden, I now have a certain amount of weeks, because I went and watched that game, I had plaster Paris on. I had a boot on. So I didn't even think I was going to make it, but I just had literally a week to go to make it. So all the build-up was just about me trying to be fit for this game.
The whole build-up to the final was a journey in itself, because he'd broken his leg, but he moved heaven and earth to try and get himself fit for the final. And I was so close to playing him.
And so he said, I'm going to do another behind closed door games up here at the training ground. So I was literally petrified. Because I'm thinking if someone tackles me, it's going to go again, because it went twice that year, my fibula. I don't know how, I just played. I said, you know what, if I get injured, I'll get injured. I played the game, played it for about an hour, and I really had a blast. I think I scored in a training game. And then it said, fine, I've declared myself fit. I could not, it was like a kid on too much sugar. I literally could not get enough of what was going on. And to the point where, once we got going and everything, got the kit on and that, I said to the boss, I've got to do the walk. I've got to do the tunnel walk. I've got to be in the tunnel with the team. I know I'm not playing. Because the substitute is normally the team. The teams go out with the manager in front of them, the teams. I said, I've got to go out. And this is where Palace fans made it so memorable, and I will never forget the sight. The balloons, the red and blue balloons down the other end. It was unbelievable. The guys had to run out to play, I had to go to the bench. It was the most agonizing 70 minutes of my life, easily, watching from the bench. We scored, you know, then they scored. By the time he did say to me, I'm going on, I was so angry, my face was so vexed. I just remember saying to Phil Barber, you know, well done, Fizz. I just ran on, I was just like, I think I crossed myself. I don't care where it is, if I get the ball in the last third, I'm getting it out of my feet and I'm shooting. I don't care, that's what I'm doing.
Now here's Wright, his first chance to show what he can do. And he's through, it's Wright! Oh, what an impact by the substitute! It's 2-2!
The realisation hits me and I feel like I'm gonna cry. I've just scored in the FA Cup final after coming off the bench. So then the game, it goes to extra time.
Wright! Goal! It's Ian Wright again! Palace are in front at 3-2.
The dream didn't get to this stage. I didn't score 2 goals after coming off the bench. So now I'm into the mode of, oh my God, I've just scored 2 goals that we could win the FA Cup final. I'm going to be one of those heroes. You know, in the end, Mark Hughes scores, makes it 3-3.
And Manchester United have saved themselves. And the referee has blown, and the FA Cup final of 1990 ends in a draw. But a stirring, gripping encounter.
We lose the replay, but in respects of a moment on a football pitch, coming off for the FA Cup final because of what it meant to me from such a young age, is the greatest moment I've had on a football pitch.
Nobody could live with Ian Wright. You know, I still maintain he had a little bit of everything. Physical when he had to be. He wasn't tiptoeing through the tulips. He'd make tackles, he'd get stuck into people. But I would say he's got to be looked upon as being the best.
I wish he was at our club. Even though we've got a few good strikers, it'd still be good to have him at Arsenal. Well, no, don't like me for saying that.
We won the league in '91 at a canter.
But here's Limpar, and Leeds are doing the chasing back now. Limpar for Arsenal, 1-1, and a wonderful equaliser. A goal for Arsenal. Off goes Campbell, and Limpar has played him through.
For players like David Rocastle, pride in the season's achievements was tinged with frustration at having been a spectator for long stretches of it.
Being injured in football, it's not nice at all. And when you get continually break down about the injury, it's even more frustrating.
I've seen both sides of it really, because when we won the title 2 years ago, I was ever present, I played every game, so I've seen the other side where I've just played a few games, and if I had another question asked, can you get a championship medal, do you qualify? It was driving me mad because people forgot about the first 2 months of the season, which I had obviously played the games.
You want your best players to be playing in your most important games as much as possible. And that was the problem. We couldn't play David as much as we would like to have played him because of his knee.
That wasn't easy. He had a fairly chronic knee problem, and our doctors had diagnosed that it was not going to get any better.
The knee would have been a real frustration for him, missing games. But he stuck with it. He would do all the work that was needed to be done to get back to fitness. But not being able to play and missing out on games, I do remember, would frustrate him.
He wasn't lightning quick, but he was explosive over like 10 yards and very aggressive. I think it's only testament to his mental strength that he played through a lot of his knee injuries. And his performance level probably dropped just a tad from what he was, that pivotal player.
I'm not going to say anything about next season because after last season I said I'm looking forward to this season and it's gone how it has. So I'm just going to say I'll report back on July the 8th.
There was a piece in the newspaper where I mentioned that I'd love to be able to play with my mate David Rocastle. I used to always talk to him about what's it like at Arsenal, what's it like the pressure of having to play for a club like that, and he said, you know, I mean, he said once you're out there and you're playing, if you're working hard enough, the pressure of that doesn't bother you, because at the end of the day you're going out and you're doing it, you're just doing the good stuff, you're continuously doing the good stuff.
We finished third in the top division with him. And these days we would have been in Europe. And it might have been different, but I don't think so. You know, he was destined to be at a top club.
There was nothing in the papers about Arsenal looking at him, this one's looking at him, nothing. There was nothing. And so I remember we played against, I think it's Villa or Oldham, I can't remember who it was, but we beat them, coming to training on the Monday like normal, and Steve Coppell just said to me, We've accepted a bid from Arsenal.
I was playing golf with the football writers somewhere in North London, and I was at dinner afterwards, after all the golf, and somebody had telephoned the reporter, their paper had telephoned the reporter and told them that Ian Wright signed for Arsenal on a record transfer fee. And they said, no, that's not right. George Graham's here, sitting having dinner. Well, they were fuming. They were absolutely fuming. That I never told them. So David Dean did the signing, and I was away playing golf.
On the other side of the transaction was the chairman of Crystal Palace, Ron Nodes, and of course I was sitting on FA and league committees with him. And so I rang Ron up, and I had to be a bit careful because I know Ron knew the value of everything, and so I said, well, Ron, you know, we could be interested in one of your strikers. He said, well, who? I said, well, either Mark Bright or Ian Wright. We really wanted Ian, but he said, no, there isn't a price. I said, well, give me a figure. He said, 2.5 million. So there's a pause. I said, Ron, I'm offering you 2.5 million for Ian Wright, and I know you're a man of your word. And there's silence at the other end of the phone. He said, okay, David, done. And to his credit, we did the deal.
I remember that night that he signed, he came over to our house, and I went up to bed because I'd Melissa, young daughter at that time, and they were down there drinking and chatting and laughing. You know, he was really looking forward to the fact that they were going to be playing at Arsenal together.
We were just like kids. We were talking about Arsenal literally all night. He's telling me about all the players, Dixon, Tony Adams, what Mercy's like, how you get legendary status instantly if you can score against Tottenham. We went on till 3, 4 in the morning just talking about Arsenal and what it's going to be like and how great it is. It was like yesterday for me.
One goes one direction and one goes in the other. You know, where Ian, he went the amateur route until he was 20, 21, you know, with non-league and all that, and then eventually to Palace, and then eventually to Arsenal, you know, a little fairy tale really, isn't it?
The Arsenal fans weren't really happy. They were more saying, well, what are we signing him for? We don't need him. I think it was the week previous they'd beaten Sheffield United at home by 5-2 or 5-something, I don't know. And I think Kevin Campbell was just coming and do some really good stuff. So when you see that, you get doubt. But it's record money for Arsenal. You know, at the time, £2.5 million, and you know they're gonna want to return.
He was a scared little boy because this is the Arsenal. He'd never scored against the Arsenal. He'd never scored against me. And he was quiet as a mouse. say that with all seriousness. You're joining the big boys, you know. When he played against Arsenal, I'm sure it was like he tried even harder and stuff, and that's why maybe he never scored.
And for the first game, when he named the team, before we went to Leicester in the kind of Little's Cup, whatever it was, I weren't starting. It was Kevin Campbell and Alan Smith up front, which when you look back, is a logical thing to do. None of them had done anything to not be playing. So then, you know, in the afternoon, I got a call from George Graham. He said, Alan Smith's ankle, something's wrong with Alan's ankle, or whatever it was, so I'll be starting. Leicester fans were singing, "What a waste of money." And then I get the opportunity.
That's a great effort, and he scored! From absolutely nothing, Ian Wright has paid off the first tiny part of that huge transfer fee.
That was me off and running. And everybody is talking about me because I scored on my debut, and now we're playing at Southampton, and that was one of my greatest days. Someone put me through, had the shot, Rocky comes in, gets the rebound. And that's that picture with me on the floor with my arms up and Rocky running over to me. I was just happy that I was involved because I knew that I kept the momentum up, I'm looking sharp. And then, you know, then the second half, it just all happened for me. Anders put me through for the first goal. But I was just playing in a team that was so good. Merce, Rocky, Michael, Anders. And again, a ball came over, it went into Tony. Tony Adams heads it, Alan Smith flicks it in. I'm straight in, it was a great touch from Smudge. Bam, slot it down to goalkeeper's left. And like now, it's just like the Arsenal fans, because they just packed that end of the Dell. It was absolutely packed with Arsenal fans. And then the last one, Anders, he done some brilliant skills. And then Alan got it at his feet, tried to curl it into the far corner, but the goalkeeper pushed it away and just blasted it in. I've had some unbelievable moments. I think this one, at the end of it, with Rock playing as well, both of us, where he come from, him scoring the first and me scoring the hat-trick. I used to put him in goal, and you know, we're now both playing for Arsenal.
And you just see the joy that Rocky got out of Wrighty scoring a hat-trick. You know what I mean? His boyhood mate who's come to Arsenal and you know, getting a hat-trick, and it was just pretty special, the bond.
It was like telepathy. They seemed to know each other's game. They loved playing with each other in the matches. They loved training with each other.
Some people just click on the pitch, and I think because they were so close, they did have a little connect. You could tell on the pitch where Rocky would have a sixth sense where Wrighty was.
No offside, Ian Wright. Pallister played him on. Rocastle's in the centre. Rocastle, 1-1. Delight for Arsenal.
We had pace, we had technical ability in midfield. It was an easy team to play in. We were good, we could match any team up. I don't know, that season as well, I think they didn't start too well. Otherwise, I think we would have probably gone on and maybe won the league again. We just missed out, but yeah, I won the Golden Boot that year. I remember we played up at Manchester, and the best image I've got is Rocky doing an unbelievable bit of skill on Paul Ince and Brian Robson, and then chipping Schmeichel.
David Rocastle, it's been a renaissance for him this season.
Off of that first season and the way we played, you know what I mean, when that season finished, honestly, I was so excited.
When Wrighty came, just the feeling that one of the best mates that ever arrived at Arsenal is going to enjoy how big a club this is and enjoy it for what it is. And then, you know, he left in the summer.
We knew David was going to play like at most one game a week, so we accepted that situation. But right out of the blue, we got a phone call from Howard Wilkerson at Leeds United, and he just says, you know, David Rocastle is available. I went, no. And then he started talking finance, and I said, well, I'll have to take that upstairs.
It was heartbreaking. He was a folk hero. The fans loved him. Nobody could understand why we were going to let him go. And it was difficult to understand. And probably more, it was on medical grounds that George took the view that the time was right to move him on. And it was not easy because we all loved him. But, you know, this happens in football, sadly. You know, everybody's time comes up at some stage.
I want to be successful for Arsenal. Rocky had changed professionally. And it's, you know, how much you might love someone, it's really difficult when you're tied to trying to get success.
I met him at the training ground. Before he even changed, I got him in my car. And I told him that we got a price that we accepted for him to go to Leeds United. And he just sat there looking at me. He couldn't believe what I'd said. Probably the hardest thing that I've had to do in football. There's a lot of times you've got to make decisions that hurts players. But that was the hardest one I ever made, actually. And David, actually, you could see him, he started crying. I didn't know how to feel.
After the training, he used to come down here, he used to pick up the Daily Express, you know, sitting here, enjoying the day. But the only thing I would cry about it, you know, it was the day when I see David so upset. It was the day when he says to me, Paul, I'm going to Leeds, and he wanted to go at that time. He didn't want to go. Oh, my family's down here, he says, you know. I don't know anybody in Leeds.
I did not envisage at any stage that he was going to go. It didn't even come into my mind that that was going to happen. So I remember when I went into training that morning, he was outside, and he was crying, and I didn't know what was going on. But like, he couldn't speak properly. You know what I mean? He said, "Listen, I'm leaving. I've got to go and speak to Leeds."
Arsenal's in his heart, and I think a little bit of the footballer, I think, went from Rocky because of how much emotions and how much in love he was with Arsenal. And then he played well for his other teams that he went to, obviously Leeds and Chelsea. I'm not saying he didn't play well, but I don't think it wasn't in his heart like Arsenal was, and I think it broke his heart to leave.
I think that, you know, he played some really good stuff at Leeds. Man City speak quite highly of him. But I think, obviously, he's happiest when he's at Arsenal. Like when I left Arsenal, there's something, you still, as professional as you can be, but something, the light goes out inside you, especially what Arsenal meant to him.
He absolutely loved it at Arsenal, and it was a season after Ian had come. So, you know, he was having this great time, and now we were moving up to Leeds. It was the first time we'd moved away from London. I had 2 young children. We had a good time everywhere we went. But in terms of the best memories I think we had as a family, and the children can remember, is Malaysia. When that came up about him going to Malaysia, and we sat down and we talked about it, we just thought, well, we're just going to make it an adventure of it. David went there first, then he came back for us, an island called Borneo. And we got there, I thought, oh my God, this is paradise. As a family, we'd done a lot together. We travelled a lot. We went all over Bali, Thailand, the Philippines, Singapore, Brunei. But yeah, I'd say definitely Malaysia where we'd have our best memories. 2 great seasons, football seasons.
I got a phone call And he said, yeah, he just said it pretty, kind of said, I got some news, got some bad news. It was in and around after Malaysia. And he said, yeah, I've got cancer, lymphoma. And he said, no, but and he kind of said it in a way and played it in a way that, it's not a really bad one. It's okay, you know what I mean? I'm gonna be all right. I've got to maybe do some chemo, but I've got to see someone else. But you know what I mean? It was that kind of conversation. So on the phone, I was still like, okay, you got it, but is it bad? Which one is it? You know what I mean? So you don't know, and so I didn't know how to take it.
I would just come back on a weekend or sometimes, and I had to see Rocky go into his mother-in-law's house. He didn't look too good. And then he finally told me he's having a test done. I'm thinking, what test? She's coming from Malaysia. What test you doing? I was trying to work out, what's wrong?
I went to visit him in Ascot, and I saw him. And when he came down to greet me, I was shocked, because I used to seeing a 12.5 stone athlete, and he lost 3 or 4 stone. I actually went to see him because I cleared it with Arsene Wenger first. I was going to try and offer him a job to come on the coaching staff at Arsenal, but sadly it couldn't happen.
We were supposed to be playing at Everton, but I had a bad back. Thank the Lord, really. I got an opportunity to see him. So I got to say goodbye, which I'll always be grateful.
2 days before he actually passed away, I went to the hospital to visit him, and I was told that it's family only. But they told him that I was there, and he said he wanted to see me. All he was able to do is just touch hands, and that was it really. But for me, that was a great feeling that he wanted to see me, even as bad as he was, and that was very, very touching.
We had no idea of how quickly this whole thing was going to happen. We knew that David was having treatment, but was feeling that it was going to be successful, and that this was, as a young man here, and we was going to be able to overcome this illness. So when it happened, it was so quick. I think everyone was really, really stunned by it. And at the time, I was, getting to the age of sort of 33, 34, trying to negotiate a contract, and I felt a bit guilty that, Christ, he's not even going to be here anymore, and there's me wanting to play football for another couple of years. I just felt a guilt at that point.
The newsreader said, we've got some really sad news. Unfortunately, ex-Arsenal player David Rocastle passed away.
At no stage did he ever think that he wasn't gonna be all right. So when he did finally pass, I took it pretty badly. It was devastating.
Spurs fans, there wasn't a pin. You could hear there was silence all the way through that minute, and I was thinking at the time that this just shows the strength of meaning that Dave had for the game and people had for him.
And the game started, and Robert Pires, appropriately wearing Rocky's shirt, the number 7 shirt, scored a wonderful goal, which could have been a David Rocastle goal.
to Rocastle. The chance is on. The goal is there for David Rocastle.
Jan, I don't like this. I don't like this.
You're the man.
Somebody should have said.
He was one of my crew, so, you know, he's one of my chaps.
Still Rocastle! Fantastic goal!
Football, and Arsenal especially, really meant a lot to him, and it was his passion, and so he worked hard at it. Everyone comes up to us and says, like, oh, your dad was such a nice guy. Who wouldn't want to hear that about their dad?
When people say David Rocastle to me, I don't even think footballer. I just saw a good person.
From the lowest of low or the highest of high, they speak to everyone the same, and that's why everybody loved him.
Back in those days, you know, coming through the academy and playing on the right wing for Arsenal, wearing the number 7, it's what a lot of people dream to do. So the fact he did it, but managed to stay humble, he never let the stardom change him.
And his name, trust me, it will be passed down from generations.
Life is all about achieving, and he did achieve. But someone to make it on that stage playing football, what all of us loved, fantastic.
Everywhere he went, people liked him. He was just a magnet for everybody.
The crowd would have been on his side right from the off because of the things that he would try to do.
People just come up to me and say, you know, your dad's a legend, and he still is. He worked so hard.
Rocastle now on the far side for Arsenal.
Oh my God, what did I say to you? I said
As a director, you're not really supposed to have favourites. Unashamedly, Rocky was my favourite. I loved him dearly.
Driven first time, it might go anywhere. Rocastle! Arsenal are through to Wembley.
To say that the whole area was proud of him is being an understatement. It didn't happen in this part of town. You know, a player, a young black player as well, going and getting through and being brilliant. He was brilliant. Yeah. Rocks.